It's Melky here. Thank you for watching this video. I want to talk about cultural heritage law, and it has been implemented in Indonesia as well. Now, the intellectual property law still has problem, right? But it's a good law. I like it because it it wants to say to the world that creators deserve payment, not just exposure all the time. Um, the problem with it is obviously you have your things being introduced in the world before before we can just use whatever we can see, whatever we remember, and then we recreated it into something creative, and we get like a communal acknowledgement, even intercommunal or extra international or inter cross cultural acknowledgement, which means commerce, right? And then we don't really have to worry about attribution in the past, which is something that could be bad as well. However, it is in our memory and we can always use it for our benefit. Now, property in itself is also a limitation of freedom in a way that people can walk around. In the past, people could. I watched um I I watched Sylvester Stallone, and then he went to the Cowboy Museum, and they talk about how there are cowboys in the past that hated the fact that they put fences around the land, around the kettles and everything, because before fences they all ride together and they remember their own kettles, and everyone go back with their own kettles after there's no more such culture because of all these wire fences that are being put around. That is from the Cowboy Museum information. uh, and then after that, um, that's the nature of property. It's a limitation of freedom. But for a fundamental cause, that cause bukan cost, I say bukan, I said not cost. um its cause or purpose, for a good purpose, that do you don't want to live within a house, right? That is your own. Don't you want to have things that you could claim as your own and not be communal all the time? Of course. And that, do you want to be able to save money for a bigger purpose? It is impossible if things are communal all the time. One day, after you get something, if you got enough, somebody is just going to ask it for you, and you are expected to give it away. And you will never be able to buy that house, that big house, or buy that uh, new kettles or something like that. Can never do anything big if everything is communal all the time, especially for sustainable protection for your family and stuff, if you have a big family. So that's why a property is something that works and has been incorporated into our culture. um, and we have built laws around it. um, Now we extended that property idea to the intellectual property. We got copyright, we got trademarks, we got franchise, we got a lot of stuff, which brought about wealth all over the world. That is good, but still, guys, we never really talk about the sacrifice. People just break the law, and they don't want to create an extension to the law, or a smart collapse of simplification of the law, so that this weakness is being addressed. We just leave it floating over there, gathering momentum, and one day creates a big disaster, probably, potentially. uh the one Okay, I am back again to my previous point, is that our memory is now limited. So that is a limitation to our potential. And it is not just a land, guys. It is not just physical property, it is our mental property, and it is different. If it is a physical limitation, physical movement that is being limited, I mean, I guess that is more acceptable rather than mental limitation, because wow, the potential of ourselves is in our mind, right? Because what so if we limit our memory to be used commercially, that is a limitation of human potential, big time. And we have to address it. And now we have an even more controversial segment of the intellectual property law, which is the cultural heritage, which is something that I really want to talk about now. And I've spent 6 minutes not talking about it. So sorry about that, guys. Cultural heritage. So, what is the problem with cultural heritage here? Cultural, to put it shortly, what what about burgers, bro? Do you want to give royalties to Americans? And which Americans? The one who invented burgers have already passed away. And it's not even America, it's Hamburg. It's Hamburg in Germany. French fries, bro. And then you want to go with coffee again, Torajan coffee. But then where did the brewing came from? I mean, dude, that is madness. And after that, I mean, I could understand the plus here. I could understand like ceremonies or ritual, traditional ceremonies or ritual could be insulting if it were performed um, by Hollywood, for example, and it performed in an insulting kind of manner, which some of the directors didn't realize, probably, or maybe not Hollywood, maybe Bollywood. It's not really famous, but then it become an international movie in 2 years or 3 years unexpectedly. And now we have this cultural heritage problem. And who's going to distribute the money to the people of that culture? And this is the people who created that have already passed away, but cannot be denied as well that when you created something like, for example, traditional clothes, that is, like, to me, that is an original expression of art that is worthy of patent, or I don't think trade secrets all the time, but definitely patent, or like a food. It is it is protected by trade secret, but I think there's some kind of patent element in it that is also worthy of protection, that is also worthy of rewards. I mean, worthy of rewards, even though everybody knows how to make it. For example, haggis, you know how to get haggis recipe online. Rendang, you know how to make rendang online, right? um, I mean, y- okay. Um, there are people there. I think a, a more accurate way of protecting them is just do a collective patent protection for the creators, for the specific creators. So we have a specific target of where the money could go to, and for example, a rendang recipe that is original, really really original, that is not uh, out of these collective people, collective Indonesian chefs, or maybe even Gordon Ramsay inside of it. Because Gordon Ramsay, I know also there's an original rendang recipe from Gordon Ramsay, or maybe the variation of it. Okay, uh, you if someone makes something original from that, they could have it on their own. Who are you going to contribute to? The government of Indonesia? I mean, yes. Yes. I don't know, guys. It's again another uncomfortableness that is very similar when copyright were introduced, when trademark were introduced, and patent were introduced. And sorry about this, just wake up look, because um, I want to be able to record these thoughts before I mm, if before it becomes convoluted with other things that I do while I'm doing something else. So I just want it to be fresh like this. Uh, One thing that I also appreciate from Hollywood, especially from culture, is how they could make uh, profanity feels good, right? I know I have it in my culture as well, but they make it public. They make it the whole world can feel motherfucking man of culture. Feels good for the whole world, right? it if it translated freely, it means something bad, but such combination is well known across the world. And it makes, like, what are you going to do with it if you have to pay to black people, black Americans, for every time you want to express things like that? Now what are you going to do? You use some kind of weird unknown profanity, like like uh, I want to say something from my own culture, but my culture is not that. It's not that permissive, guys. There are crazy people out there who's just going to persecute you. I don't want to deal with them. Okay, but let's say blah blah is a bad word. We're gonna say blah blah genius, my friend, blah blah genius, and everyone would not understand what the fuck do you mean, what the fuck do you mean, and that's just madness, bro. What are you going to? This cultural thing is weird. I'm not saying that people don't deserve what they deserve, but I think people could be more accurate about this. And if you want to give extra money to governments, why are we restricting things that are good, things that change the meaning of something that is bad into something good for the whole world? Okay, and you want to give the money to the government. The people who popularize this, I know, Notorious Big, for example, Tupac Shakur, they, what are you going to do, bro? Some of this stuff belongs to them as well, at least for me. Maybe there are more people before them, but some of them I don't know. And still, like, the intuitive way of doing this, right? Okay, here's the solution, right? You you give it to the people, you know. You give it to the source, and the source gonna have the source, the source gonna have the source, and that is, that's their responsibility. How about that? How about that? Like, I don't know people who pass it down to Tupac. I don't know people who pass it down um to all of the to 50 Cent. I don't know the people who pass it down to Eminem, but I know Eminem, I know 50 Cent. I can target them. If I got income out of the things that I make, uh, I could attribute it to them, and they could attribute it to other people. How about that? I think that's a little bit more viable, even though it is still difficult, but I think it's decent. I mean, it's, I don't know what properness. Uh, but and it is really a cultural thing. I know it is hard to control because it's so cloudy. Because but cloud is good. Diversification is good, and it has been a part of human culture. And I think the laziness of the centralized system, I mean, whether they do it on purpose or not on purpose, but the tendency of a centralized system is always wants to knock out the diversification of each individual, because it's hard to control. They want to be able to make sense of things, and things doesn't make sense when things are too chaotic and cloudy like that. And it is intuitive for them to simplify things, but when they want to simplify things, there's an ethical issue that they have to follow. When they're being lazy, they're not going to follow that. They're just going to use their power, and that is just, oh my god. Can we not really overdo something like that? I don't know, guys. This is an unfinished thought. Okay, I could be wrong with a lot of stuff here, but I think my concern is shared by many people, and we could figure this out. I think articulation is not always easy, but human. That is the destiny of human beings. We could figure this out. Thank you guys. Goodbye.